Every decision we make has a why. It has a why in it. And pause real quick. I would again encourage you. The best thing that we do here is chat groups, which we do right after this. And the best way you can contribute to your chat group is to jot down something that stood out to you that you want to process with the group. So that's why there's notes. That's why there's pens and paper there. And also, if you have a Bible, I'd love for you to open that up to John 6. That's where we're going to spend the majority of our time. We're going to reference some other stuff where we're be in John 6, or you have the Bible left. So every decision we make has a why. And that includes, why do you follow Christ? For me, frankly, it wasn't that difficult of a decision. I was 6 years old. I grew up in a Christian household. My dad was a pastor, so we were at the church like all the time. And there was one such Sunday evening where we were watching, where I was 6 years old, and the adults are doing their thing, and we're watching this like, we're watching one of those animated like Bible story movies. Have you guys seen some of those? Cool, just me. And anyway, me and Lily. And this story was the story of Job. I don't know if you know the story of Job, but it's pretty crazy. And the way I understood it as a 6-year-old is that this being, Satan, was super powerful. And he was doing all these crazy things to Job. His kids died, he lost his house, he lost his job, all these crazy things. And I woke, and here's the kicker. Church upstairs got done early, and so they just came down and got us, and we didn't finish the story. So I didn't hear the end of the story where God wins, Job's restored, and so I didn't get to hear that though, which is a bummer when you're 6, okay? And so the next morning just wake up terrified, just assuming that our house is going to be on fire, my mom and dad are going to be dead, and just all this because Satan's this crazy powerful being. And that is not what happened. It was actually a beautiful day, and I went down to talk to my mom and just process this stuff with her. In the most simple way that she could explain to me, she explained the gospel that Jesus was way more powerful than Satan. There was no equal there. That he loved me, that he provided a way for me to go to heaven with him when I died, and I didn't have to live in fear. And I'll tell you, I wanted that. And so I knelt down right next to our big trash can. And I don't know why you remember the things you remember, but I knelt down right next to our big trash can, and I prayed to accept Jesus in my heart that day. And it was awesome. And then, frankly, it wasn't that difficult for me to follow Jesus. Like, I was in this Christian family, in this small town, and I didn't get persecuted for being a Christian. I got like made fun of a little bit, but it's like, whatever, that happens to people. Most of my close friends were Christians. I didn't lose any, and even through high school, it's not like I necessarily lost friends because of my beliefs. It wasn't hard for me to be a Christian. In some ways, it was kind of convenient. Until later, the why really came up in my life. When I experienced something later in life, and you're like, why am I doing this? Because honestly, my family was doing it, my friends were doing it, it was just kind of there. And I think my story might be similar to some of you. Either you have or you are just kind of following Jesus. And let me pause here and say, I know some of you guys are not getting any support from friends and family to follow Jesus, and you're doing it. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. You are so much stronger now than I was when I was your age. I'm so proud of you guys. But for a lot of us, it's just kind of what we do. You get the benefit of following Jesus. But like, you don't have to deal with any of the bad stuff. Like, it doesn't inconvenience you to follow Jesus. And maybe that's because we don't know exactly how we're supposed to follow Jesus. Maybe it's a little confused, it's a little clouded. Like, people at school say that they believe in Jesus too, but like they do these things, so like I can do those things. Like, and like, if I was like, it's not like if I don't read my Bible, I'm not a Christian, right? Like, it's not inconvenient for me to be a Christian. But as the great theologian Lecrae once said, if you didn't know Jesus, would your life look the same? Can they tell you value Jesus by the way you represent? And that's a question for us, right? Like if you as a person, if you didn't know Jesus, if you weren't claiming to follow Jesus and follow Jesus, would your life look basically the same? Maybe you wouldn't go to church. Maybe you wouldn't, you wouldn't come to Access. Like maybe, but like, would your life look any different? If it wouldn't, maybe we're starting from the wrong place. We took a survey last year, at the end of last year, and it wasn't like a gotcha survey, but it was like I tried to understand where we're at as a group. And one of the questions on the survey was, do you spend regular time with God? And I believe regular time was like 4 or more times a week. I don't remember that exactly. You guys probably know better than I do. And 37% of our group said that they spend regular time with God, which would be 4 or more times a week, which would leave 63% that would be less than regular time with God. It's not inconvenient, or it's not inconveniencing you to follow Jesus, because you kind of do what you want to, when you have time to do it. That's where a lot of that's not to put us down. Like that's just a question for us to consider. Where am I at in those percentages? Where am I at? And furthermore, like should my life look different? If I'm claiming to be a follower of Jesus, should my life look different? We're going to look at the disciples. We're going to look at Peter specifically. Peter is one of my favorite characters in the Bible. I relate to him for better or for worse in a lot of situations. He is brash. He is just kind of goes with the flow. Peter's your kind of guy that like if someone said to you on a Friday night, you're like sitting around, you're like, hey, we should just drive to Chicago right now. I know it's 11 p.m., but we should just drive to Chicago. Peter would be like, let's go right now. Like he's just the jump in, let's do it. Both feet in, boom. That's Peter. Actually, in Mark 1:16, I asked you to write that down so you can fact check me later. We're not going to look there, but that's where Jesus calls Peter to be his disciple. And we see that he immediately leaves his job. He's a fisherman. He immediately leaves his job and jumps out and follows Jesus. And part of that is cultural, but part of that is just like he's this all-in personality. And Peter, when he followed Jesus, he got to see a bunch of crazy stuff. Actually, the book of Mark, most theologians, people who like study the Bible and history that go with the Bible, they agree that Mark, the guy that wrote the book of Mark, his main source for all his material is Peter. And so if you read the book of Mark, we see everything that Peter saw. He saw people get raised from the dead. He saw people get healed from crazy diseases like leprosy, which was just like a death sentence. He saw people, he saw Jesus walk on water. He walked on water for a little bit. Like he just experienced all these crazy things. And frankly, for Peter, it was kind of easy for a while to follow Jesus. It was kind of easy. It was really convenient for him because he was getting all the notoriety of being with Jesus. Because thousands and thousands of people started following him and listening to him. So in John chapter 6, if we were to break down just the sections there, just in this section alone in John chapter 6, we see that Jesus feeds 5,000. It's actually men. So you double that for women and add children. We're talking potentially 10,000 or more people. Jesus does this crazy miracle with that. And Peter got to be right there at the front of it. He's Jesus' right-hand man. A lot of guys agree that Peter was like one of his closest friends. And he got to be there and experience it. And he got the notoriety of being right there with Jesus. Like if it was today, people, like he'd be walking down the street and people would be like, oh, I saw Peter. That's Peter. Peter, can I get a picture? Peter, can you sign? Like, hey, ask Jesus this question. They were trying to, and Peter got to be part of the benefits of following Jesus. He saw the benefits of following Jesus. And then this crazy things happened. Again, we're going to work through chapter 6. Jesus walks on water. But then in verse 25, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to take, we're going to spend our majority of our time here in 60 down. But if we were to go from 25 to 60, if we were to read that, basically what it is it's just incredibly difficult, harsh sermon. where Jesus uses language like, if you want to follow me, you have to drink my blood and eat my flesh. And they're like, what is he talking about? He explains that idea like, if you want to follow me, like, you need to be committed. You need to be willing to die for this cause. If you're just in this because it's like convenient, and you're in this because it's fun right now, and you're getting some popularity from like being with me, then that's not why we're here. That's not why we're here. And then, verse 60, read with me or follow along with me. It says, on hearing it, many of his disciples said, this is a hard teaching. Who can accept it? I love Jesus' response here. He's so like politically correct and smooth, right? This is what he says. Aware that his disciples were grumbling about this, Jesus said to them, does this offend you? He's not smooth there. Then what if you see the Son of Man ascend to where he was before? The Spirit gives life, the flesh counts for nothing. The words I have spoken to you, they are full of Spirit and life, yet there are some of you who do not believe. For Jesus had known from the beginning which of them did not believe and who would betray him. What he basically says there is, hey, if you're in this for popularity, if you're in this because you like seeing the show, you like seeing me do miracles, you like the benefits of following me, but like you don't want really in, then this isn't for you. We want you all in, or nothing. Then verse 66, it says, from this time many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. So the way I understand this, and just the way I envision it, I might be wrong, but the way I envision the scene here is that Jesus probably he's probably on a hill, maybe like down at the lodge, like if we were in a three-sided barn down the lodge, if you've been there, and Jesus is down at the bottom, and there's like 1,000 or so people on the hill. And they're there, they've enjoyed following him around, they've enjoyed the benefits, like he feeds them, they see miracles. This is kind of like this show, right? And Jesus says to them, hey, like, if you're here for that, and you're not willing to die for this cause, you shouldn't be here. And what I kind of imagine is people just start to leave. People start to leave, just slowly, people start to leave. As it sets in, like, oh, like he isn't doing this for me. Like I thought I was gonna have like this easy life if I followed Jesus. I thought like everything was just gonna smooth out for me if I followed Jesus. No, like, but he's saying it's gonna be hard. Well, let's do the miracles again, Jesus. If it's not gonna be like that, if it's not gonna be what I thought it was, like then I don't want to do it. And this would be like an incredibly hard time to be Peter. We're back at focusing on Peter. This would be a hard time to be him because all of a sudden it's not cool to follow Jesus anymore. It's hard. If there was like social media going on around it, like they would just be blasting Jesus. Jesus is an idiot. He's talking in like these weird parables, man. He should go back to what he used to do. He should go back to he's talking like that we need to be willing to die. Why would I die? Like. So here we find, that's the scene that we find ourselves in. And in verse 67, Jesus asked the 12, you do not want to leave me too, do you? So here's this breaking point, this big moment for Peter and the other disciples, where they have an out. Peter can go back to working as a fisherman. He can go back to his old life and the old things that he used to do. Part of him was thinking, I was plenty happy when I did that before. Like I could go back, but I love what he says here. I love what he says here. Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe. We've come to believe and to know that you are the Holy One of God. I love that. As Peter evaluates his life and as he looks at what he's doing and where he's come from, and he's thinking like maybe I could go back to my old life. So I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back. Where would I go? Back to what I was doing before? With no purpose? That's kind of the question we have to ask ourselves tonight. So back to my story. I got to this place. This long story I've kind of shared with you before, but like just a place where I questioned my faith about 6 or 7 years ago. And some stuff happened in my life, and just the question came up. It actually happened to me and one of my best friends at the time, and he came to the realization that he didn't believe in God anymore, and he didn't want it anymore. And this is a guy who knew all the same stuff I knew. We knew all the same stuff about the Bible. We read the same books. We had the same conversations, and he came to a drastically different conclusion than I was coming to. And frankly, it rattled my faith quite a bit. And I had to ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? But as I evaluated my life, and I went back to Scripture, and I studied, and I asked people that I trusted questions, I came to the conclusion, where else would I go? Where else would I go? So I had to make a choice. And I think tonight it's important for us to realize, or to think about why we decided to, or even why we should decide to follow Jesus. My friend Samir, he grew up as a Muslim in Africa, in Algeria, and when he became a Christian, he lost all his community. He lost all sorts of stuff. And one time he was sharing his story at this seminary class down in Louisville, Kentucky. And he shared, and they're asking questions, and he's sharing about God's grace and how it just overwhelmed him, how God made himself known to him, and he's crying because he's so moved about how God pursued him, and the realization, like, and the way that God pursues all of us, but the way that God loves us. And then the student raised their hand and they said, "Did you lose any? Like, how did your family react?" Oh, my wife, she left me. She actually tried to kill me. My family plotted to kill me. His brother was a high-ranking official in the government. All his friends deserted him. I think he lost his job. It just went from bad to worse, right? But what he said was, but that's just the cost of following Christ, right? Not for me. But Samir, what moved him was God's grace. It wasn't the fact that he lost these relationships and his life was threatened several times, but it was God's grace that pursued him and loved him. But what's the cost for us? What would it look like for us to really follow Jesus? Not just when it's convenient, but all the time. So here's the question I have for us. If you decided to follow Christ, do you realize what he's done for you? A lot of people get saved and they might pray a prayer and they accept Jesus and it's this cool moment, but like, do you realize what went into that moment? Do you realize that Jesus literally had to die? That Jesus literally had to suffer? Like, just read the account later in John 17 and after, about before the crucifixion, during the crucifixion, and after. Like, he did that for us. He did that to create a way for us. And we, maybe not we, but like many Christians, just take that so flippantly. Like, oh cool, I get to go to heaven. I'm just going to keep doing exactly what I did before and just kind of cash in on the benefits of following Jesus. Second question is, if you've decided to follow Christ, has it changed your life at all? Oftentimes, we get so wrapped up in our day-to-day lives that Jesus takes a seat in the back burner. We get so wrapped up in just day-to-day stuff and going, we just forget and we don't prioritize what it means for us to follow Jesus. Which can be so, we're going to talk mobilized next week. Guys, being mobilized by Jesus is so exciting. I believe that God puts stuff in our way all the time for us to do, but we don't see it with our eyes. I believe that we can know God really, really well. He doesn't have to be this super ambiguous being that we just kind of know some stuff about. We take this from a movie and I believe that if we study the Bible and we read the book that He gave us, that we can know God. What would that look like in our lives? So we're going to do that as a group. And here's the deal, I can't force you. I can't force you to grow. I can't force you to grow in your faith. And we keep going back to this, but to look back at this point and be like, man, I've grown since August. But if you want to, there's a group of us that are going to do it. So starting next week in our chat groups, we're going to do Bible plans through the U version within our chat groups. We're just going to spend time reading the Bible in community with each other for those that want to do it. Again, we're not, and frankly, if I could make you, I don't know if I would make you do it. Because you wouldn't get anything out of it. But if you want to grow in your faith this year, if you want to grow and know God better this year, we're going to put tools and opportunities directly in your path that you'll have to go around them to not do them. I want us to grow as a group. I want to grow. I'm not content with where I'm at. And I hope that we get to do that together. So I'm going to pray. Then we're going to go with the chat group time. If you don't know what chat group you're supposed to go to, come talk to me and I'll help you find it. Lord, thanks for Peter and the example he set for us. Thanks for making it known that we don't have to be perfect to follow you. But God, help us to strive for holiness. Help us to strive to know you better, to grow, and to not be content with where we're at today. No matter where we're at, God, I pray that you would create in us a discontentment. Lord, I just pray that you would protect our conversations right now. I pray you will give us insight into how we can help each other grow. Lord, I love you, and I'm desperate to see you move in our group this year. Yeah, I pray. Amen. I love you guys. Go to chat groups.